So today's interview is with Steffen, who is now serving in the 411th Drone Battalion in Ukraine. He is part of the 50 States for Ukraine initiative. In fact, he and his brother are the, I think, original founders and organizers of the entire operation. So without further ado, let's get to Steffen. But just a quick reminder, please make a donation to Car for Ukraine and the Michigan Battalion if you'd like to support me directly. Every dollar you spend makes a difference to some Ukrainian life somewhere in the front. Thanks again. And on to Steffen.
So I guess let me just start off. First of all, Steffen, thank you for letting me interview you. I have a very small YouTube channel, a couple hundred followers, but I'm hoping we can leverage this and get more information out. I was lucky enough to virtually meet you through the Car for Ukraine initiative, 50 States for Ukraine. And but I'd like to get into kind of your background and what you're doing now, especially. But why don't we start off with just telling me a little bit about who you are and your life up until maybe you joined the Ukrainian military.
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, my name is Steffen. I'm a 31 years old. I actually have dual citizenship as a German American. So I have a German mom and an American father. Um, Born and raised in California for most of my life. I studied civil engineering at California State University, Sacramento. Went into transportation and specifically urban planning and figuring out how to make our transportation system better. And of course, it has nothing to do with the military. None of this was on my radar. And in this field, I decided actually to move to the Netherlands after 2 years of working because I was very interested in what I was doing. And I wanted to get more of a scientific basis for my whole field of study. In the US, we don't often build roads in a really I would say wise or scientific manner. It's done kind of often ad hoc. Maybe in Michigan, you know what I'm talking about. And I mean, but it's not just in Michigan, of course, it's everywhere. And yeah, that's what I ended up doing that for 4 years in the Netherlands. So I found basically my equivalent job to what I did in the US to doing in the Netherlands. And that was my life until the second invasion of Ukraine started by Russia. And I remember being extremely shocked because I was one of those people who said Putin would never be stupid enough to do something like this. This would change the world forever as we know it. And then I remember turning on my TV and just bolting out of bed, seeing that I thought like I was like still asleep or like I was on some parody news channel. I just kept checking the other ones. It was like, holy shit, he did it. And I pretty much ever since that moment, as someone who's always studied and appreciated history, I felt like I had a bit of a sense of just how much the world had changed that day. So I my engagement started really with just trying to understand what was happening, and then donating to some causes and just trying to stay informed. And then as time dragged on, I got involved with an organization called Help 99. It's a Estonian charity that drives trucks from Tallinn to Kiev. And started donating to them. And then after one day when I was like rage donating because I was pretty pissed off about what was going on with the House Republicans with Speaker Johnson, I just emailed them. I said, "Hey, I donate to you guys. Is there any way I can like get more directly involved? I'd love to help more." And to my surprise, they said yes. They reached out to me and they said we need drivers. So the next couple of weeks, I was in Tallinn and I was driving in a convoy between Tallinn, 36 hours to Kiev. And I enjoyed it so much. I was just like, I'd love to do this again and again. And I did it a few times. Then I started my own fundraiser for a truck. I have a small YouTube channel as well called Build the Lanes. It's actually about urban planning and road design, but I kind of found a way to tie it into Ukraine because I said, hey, well, we actually have an abundance of pickup trucks, which are actually not that great for driving in cities. They're actually quite dangerous, but they're very helpful on the front line. So let's try to use the right tool for the right job. And it was a success. And then I ended up doing one later with my brother, who started doing these trips with me. And together, after we finished our second trip together, we came up with this idea of 50 states for Ukraine on the train ride back. And I mean, it was one of those things where we thought, yeah, okay, that sounds fun. We'll see what happens. And to our surprise, it just kept growing and growing and growing. So for anyone who's not familiar, 50 States for Ukraine is an idea that we're going to start a fundraising group in every state of the U.S. And each group focuses on fundraising for vehicles, so we can eventually fundraise 1,000 vehicles for the Ukrainian army. Michigan is actually very close to the top with 3 vehicles already, just behind Florida with 4. But I am fully confident that Mr. Hoke here will smash that target in no time. But now I'm actually in Ukraine. I've been in Ukraine since last June, and I'm here because in September of 2024, I made the decision that I wanted to join the Ukrainian army because I just felt like my current engagement wasn't enough, and I wanted to take more of a personal risk and understand what it was like for the other Ukrainian soldiers here. I just didn't want to, I had the sense of I feel incredibly privileged to be living in the kind of world we do. Like, I don't think we should just take the world that we live in for granted with its freedoms. And I realize there are people who sacrificed everything to to so I could have what I have, and I feel selfish if I wouldn't do the same for the next generation. So I would like to be able to say, like, yeah, well, I I pretty much did everything. I fundraised, I drove trucks, I donated, and I also served for a bit. So I'm now in the Ukrainian army. I serve as a drone interceptor pilot. And right now we are defending the airspace in the Kharkiv region against the Russian Shahed drones. So every night, if you guys aren't aware, the Russians shoot hundreds of Shahed drones every night at Ukrainian cities. And our job is to shoot them down with other drones. So that is what I do. And that's what I plan to do for a while.
So you and I have at least a little bit of a similar background. I spent my career working for Ford Motor Company, and Ford, as you're probably aware, was famous for doing things like ripping up trains so that we could have all the crazy roads and all the cars that we have. So I appreciate your comment about the roads and how we don't necessarily do that the best way. So I'd like to dig into a little bit more about your transition from the civilian fundraiser to now a soldier. And especially a soldier in an anti-drone unit, which is, something that didn't exist 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about like what it was like to join and show up and then, go through your basic.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it first started with preparation on my end because when I made this decision in September 24, I had no military background. I didn't speak it really in Ukrainian. So, and also I didn't know anything about how to join properly. So I took a few months to really talk to people, to learn, to study the language a bit, and to figure out what my options were. And I learned that, yeah, you can join things like the International Legion, but there's also Ukrainian units that are now starting to accept foreigners. And basically, it seemed like your main options are either you go into the International Legion or you use something with drones, just because the need is so high. Unless you have some prior military specialty, like they won't just take a foreigner for something like artillery, right? Or working on radars, because that takes a whole bunch of specialist training, and they don't have like a program set up for foreigners. So it's like basically Legion or drones, unless you have some very specific skill set that makes it easier for you to do that. So uh, I I had thought about, yeah, maybe I can do some more frontline-ish, but a lot of people advised me, and they said, hey, this is war is not like it was in 2022 or 2023, even when there was a lot of movement, and it's not like fighting like you're aware of anymore. A lot of it's just drones, and if you go more into an infantry role, then you're just sitting around waiting to get injured, is how one former U.S. Marine described it to me. So I said, okay, well, I want to be helpful. So I decided to go more into the drone side of things. And then I just remember thinking about it one day and just being pissed off about another attack, and reading about how there's this new interceptor thing going on. And I thought, like if I had a choice, like I think I'd want to do that, because that's about saving as many lives as possible. And it seemed to me that in a way, Ukraine has a lot of this ground attack drones figured out. Like they know how to stop the Russians. They just need more drones. Like it's like they have the equation figured out.
Mhm.
Whereas the air defense still has to improve, right? It's like they're doing a good job, but we have to be consistently be shooting nearly every drone down every single time, and we're not there yet, but we're getting better. So yeah, that's the role I signaled interest in, and they agreed. So I got into contact with the 411th Brigade. Well, they're a brigade now. They used to be a regiment back when I contacted them. And yeah, so how it works is you show up in Ukraine, and it's a little bit like a civilian job. You go to the recruiting center, and then you can sign a contract like for a regular civilian job. And once you sign that, then once they're ready for you, they will send you to basic army training, which for me lasted 51 days. You learn a lot of infantry skills and outdoor survival and how to follow basic commands. And then after that, we had a few days of rest, and then we were deployed to our operating area. So for us, that's in the Kharkiv Oblast. And yeah, it's been what can I say? Quite a transition. I went from living in a nice part of Kiev. I was actually stuck in Kiev for 3 months, just trying to figure out going through the bureaucracy, the lovely Ukrainian bureaucracy, and I went from that to living in a bunker for 51 days in basic army training, where you have pretty much no privacy and very little like hot water and all the nice amenities of civilization. And now being deployed, it's a little bit of like 50-50. Like 50% of the time you live a sort of normal life, where you're in the whole behind the front lines, but you're still doing supporting roles when you're taking a rest. And then there's the other 50% where you're on duty, where you can be quite close to the front line, and then you are more or less living in a bunker or something like that, 24 hours a day, multiple days in a row.
So there's a lot there I'd like to unpack with you, but I guess the one question too is, so I mean, you look like a fit guy, but the legends of we've all seen the movies like Full Metal Jacket, where basic training is just this ridiculously brutal experience. Tell us a little bit more about what your experience was like.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, it's not like U.S. boot camp for sure, where it's not as long. Where I think U.S. boot camp was something like 10 to 12 weeks, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Maybe even longer. Yeah, my boot camp was 51 days, which I think is just shy of 8 weeks. And yeah, I mean, it's built more, I would say, for the 40-year-old Ukrainian guy who's not in the best of health, but he needs to learn like just enough. And I mean, the training period used to be a lot shorter, but they've just been improving it over time. And yeah, I mean, you learn how to shoot, you learn how to you just learn basic infantry stuff. And for me, the hardest part was actually yeah, I went in expecting it to be like very hardcore, and that it was going to be a big physical challenge. But for me, it was more like the language barrier, because not too many people there spoke English. So there were like 3 people in our whole training group that spoke in English, so I didn't have many people to talk to. So for me, it was more of a mental challenge. We had a few small physical challenges where near the end we had like a 3-day like training scenario where we went with the whole group out into some camp, and then we got ambushed multiple times, and we had to like fight our way through ambushes and mines, well, fake mines, of course. And then we had to set up a camp, and then we got attacked by drones, and then we had to locate the enemy base. So it kind of was like camping for adults, was like the way I would describe it. It's like, what do they got planned for us today? But no, it was never. I wouldn't say it's like a super hardcore training. I would say that's more the experience for somebody who goes to Azov or something like that. So like I would say that in the Ukraine, there's a huge diversity in the Ukrainian military, I would say, in quality and also like equipment. And there are hardcore units where the training is kind of maybe what you're referring to with Full Metal Jacket, where not many people make it through. And then there's units that the training bar is very low. Like if you join the Territorial Defense Forces, right? It's a lot of guys in their 50s who are not in the best of health, and they have what they brought with them, and that's pretty much it. And then there's a few things like in between. So yeah.
So what was What was your experience with drones prior? I mean, were you an amateur drone pilot? Did you have any experience with drones before you joined up?
I know I had exactly zero experience with drones. So I think the only thing I did with drones before I came to Ukraine was I started learning how to fly Mavic drones, and
Mm.
I went to a tactical medical training course in the Czech Republic to get ready. And the one of the guys who ran the program heard that I knew how to fly Mavic drones, so on our last day of training, he told me, "Hey, you're gonna pretend to be an enemy drone pilot and try to attack the other students while they're doing evacuations." And I was like, "Awesome!" So I quickly became the least favorite person
Yeah, I
in
bet.
the whole
I
camp
bet.
because I made their lives a living hell. Yeah.
So earlier you said you actually sometimes are very close to the front, even though your role is kind of an anti-drone and specifically anti-Shahed drones.
Mhm.
Is that really just so that you have the most time to intercept them, or what brings you that close to the front?
Well, I mean, your roles and your responsibilities can change. And to give you an example, right, the 411th used to be so the 411th started as a battalion, then they grew into a regiment, and now they've actually just become a brigade. So
Okay.
that means that there are a lot of different groups now doing different things. So when I joined, I started doing work in Donbass, protecting frontline positions. So there's
Okay.
different levels of air defense. So on the actual front line in gray zone, there are many positions, and the Russians have their own drones called Molnias, which are like basically small fixed wing airplanes that are just packed with like 7 kilograms of C4. And they're
Mhm.
suicide drones that just try to blow up Ukrainian bunkers and positions. And so our job is to try to intercept those airplanes. And so
Okay.
that's much a shorter distance air defense. So we have to be much closer to the front, and they usually use quadcopters or something like that to do that. And then you have air defense that's further back that tries to go after the longer range Russian drones, like the Shaheeds or the Russian surveillance drones that fly high and try to get intel on what's going on behind the front line. So I've done both. I've done the frontline. I've done the frontline air defense, and currently I do the behind the frontline air defense against Shaheeds.
So can you tell us a little bit about like are you actually flying the interceptor drones? Are you one of the guys who sets up the munitions? What can tell us about your role specifically if you can?
Yeah. Well, I mean, how it works is you have to learn how to do all of it. So the traditional path is when you start, you have to become a sapper, which is the guy who handles the explosives. So I was the guy uh, learning. I learned how to pack C4. I learned how to attach C4 to a drone, and then I learned how to safely set up the mechanism so when the operator hits a button, the drone explodes. So I was the one who was having to run in and out of the bunker to put a drone outside, and then also pick up a drone when it came back. If we flew a mission and they didn't find anything, they would come back when they ran out of battery, and it was my job to go retrieve it and then bring it back. Then there's a navigator, which helps locate where the pilot is flying to, and also communicate with headquarters and other units. And then there's the pilot itself. So I've had to do all of those different roles, but I'm currently a pilot now.
Okay. So can you give us a sense of your Shaheed count personally? Is that something you keep track of?
Of course we do. Maybe I can show you quickly. So I don't know if I can tell you too. I don't think I can tell you too many specifics about the exact drones I fly. Right.
Okay.
However, I can show you this here.
Hmm.
So this was the tag from the first interceptor drone that I flew that blew up a Russian Shahed drone. So it's my little
Awesome.
trophy.
That is
So
awesome.
your question, currently my count is 2 Shahed drones and 1 Hebera drone. And but that's just me personally. If we're talking about, we like to count as a crew, right? Because obviously it's not just the pilot who does the interceptions; it's the whole team that works together to make it happen. So
Right.
if you count it as a crew, we have intercepted together those 3, and then plus 7 Molnia drones. So 10 drones in total.
And just to give me a sense, since in how long a time span did it take you to get those 10 drones as your part of your crew?
Let's see, it is I'd say around 2.5 months.
Okay.
Which is actually a fairly long time, but as I said, there's been a lot of reorganization that's been happening, and sometimes there's long periods of times where you don't get anything, and then there's times where you have so many targets that you can't get them all. So this is how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and watching the news, at least based on the Ukrainian reports, it sounds like 90% ish of incoming drones get taken down across the country on any given attack, and which is pretty astounding. But I realize that the goal is obviously 100. Every drone that gets through is a risk to civilians and infrastructure and soldiers. So yeah, that's amazing what you're doing. Going back a little bit, so what is the thing that surprised you the most about joining the Ukrainian military? I'm sure you had a lot of open questions and there was a lot of unknown, but is there anything that really just shocked you or wasn't what you expected?
The biggest shock to me, actually, the biggest surprise was how um, it's actually, you can actually live a somewhat normal life still, and still be in the army. So uh, there's a lot of rotation that happens when you work on the front line. So the closer your position is to the actual contact line where Russian troops are, the longer your rotations are, because it's very risky to move in the
Get in
rig.
and out.
If
Yeah.
you're not too far in, you can get rotated relatively easily, and if you're very far in, then it's very difficult. So you, I don't know if I can talk about the exact days of rotation, of course, but
Right.
I've told people, sometimes it can actually kind of feel like a day job sometimes, or I would tell people it's like working for War FedEx, where because I've worked for FedEx, during the holidays, and I would actually say that's probably the closest experience I can compare it to, where it's very hectic, very high energy. There's a lot of logistics, of course, to it. It's like, because like if you think about like how the drones get moved in boxes and are transported to different areas, it reminds me a lot of FedEx, but we're in a war. And then the drones arrive to position where they're then used and shot down, but you will work for a certain number of hours, and then you will then go rest, and then the job resumes after a certain time period when everyone has the rest. So it's not 24/7 necessarily. Like there might be another crew that takes over for when you guys rest, but this whole idea of like on and off shifts just seemed like so like civilian like to me. I was like, it was like it's just not what I expected, like, at all. And
Mm.
I thought it'd basically be like it would just be complete total exhaustion all day until eventually you manage to get rotated out. But they're like, and I mean, they explained it to me and said it's not smart to exhaust people when you're working with explosives and drones. And I was like, well, that makes sense, but it's just not what I expected.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So with your background in engineering, did you find, was that like a requirement to become part of a drone unit? Did you find it helpful, obviously, because you have some technical know-how? Did it not matter at all because they taught you what you needed, or how did that work?
No, I mean, I think a technical background always helps when you're learning anything remotely technical. But I mean, I went to civil engineering, which involves concrete and asphalt and grading, and we're talking about electronics here, so there's not really a huge overlap. And a lot of the guys I meet have had zero like background in technical skills. Like I met some 55-year-old guy from Scotland, right, who's like never done anything technical in his life before. And he's a great drone pilot, actually. So um, yeah, it's not necessary at all. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see how some people come here in a way to reinvent themselves, and they don't know anything about drones, and but they want to help, and they learn a very useful skill, and it's like a new life and a new beginning for them.
So, doing a little bit of reading about the Ukrainian military, it sounds like most contracts for foreigners are kind of a 3-year agreement. Is that kind of the how you're operating as well?
Yeah, so how it works is like the what international people sign the same contract that a Ukrainian citizen signed. But the difference is that under Ukrainian law, a foreigner is allowed to cancel their service after 6 months of signing, whereas a Ukrainian does not have that option. And that's for practical reasons, because it's not in Ukraine's interest to keep foreign volunteers here against their will if they change their mind, but it's not worth their time to just have someone here for a couple of months. So this is like the kind of like the compromise they came to.
So surfing YouTube channels, right? I find a lot of people, and maybe I'll put a list of them in the credits or something, but who went, signed a 3-year contract, realized, like you said, they've reinvented themselves, right? They've found this thing, and probably the same passion that you mentioned earlier, where they're in it for the long haul. That's how they feel about it. What are your thoughts now that you're a few months in? Do you see yourself staying 3 years and longer? How does it, what's your emotion about what you're doing, and what your future looks like?
Yeah. Well, if I'm being honest, I think just to be real and honest, I think a lot of people who come here, right? I mean, there's of course the part of you that wants to help, but I think a lot of times people also do it for themselves, right? There's something inside of you that is motivating you to do this. It's like it's not purely logic driven, right? Because there's this argument of, oh, why don't you just stay home and fundraise, right? And people ask me that, and I said I just have to, right? I feel really pushed to do this. And yeah, it's different for different people. I think for me, I would probably say I could definitely see myself doing it maybe for a year, maybe a bit longer. I would be open to doing longer, but I think it would depend on the exact circumstances of what's needed exactly. For me, I've more or less I just wanted to try to do everything, and having done it. Yeah, I don't think I'll go the full 3 years, but I think I would definitely go much longer than just the minimum of 6 months. So probably something in between.
Well, and like you mentioned, there's so many ways to help, and here's my shameless plug in our video for things like Car for Ukraine, where I think the 50 states for Ukraine is now over $330,000 raised, right? So that's, do the math. I think we're over 20 some trucks now that have been delivered already. And I know every dollar, every truck, every bullet, every drone, whatever we can all do helps, right? And I wanted to just bring up too, I mean, part of my passion about this whole thing started very similar to what you mentioned, seeing the full-scale invasion in 22, after kind of following the news of what happened in Crimea in 2014, and honestly feeling like my country failed, right? We signed the Budapest Memorandum. We helped promise Ukraine their sovereignty if they gave up their nuclear weapons, and now I feel like we're just not doing enough as a country. And I feel like it's up to now, individuals to do what they can. And I just wanted to say how very impressed I am by what you did with the 50 states for Ukraine, and then what you're obviously transitioned to now. It's just been a pleasure to get to know you the little bit that I've been able to through our virtual connection. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to, other Americans or other citizens of the world about, what you're doing, or what we could all do to help Ukraine?
Yeah, I would like to say that look, all of this starts at the individual level. So for me, right, my brother and I, we were just two individuals who wanted to help, and we had no prior military experience, we had no prior fundraising experience, and it just started with the start doing something. And so for me, that was following YouTube videos and donating. And then when my brother got involved, that he started with doing a convoy trip with me. And so I would just tell people, if you don't know how to start, just start. Just start by doing something, even if it's really small. And there are so many groups and initiatives that you can join, like 50 States for Ukraine. We're actually about to crack 500,000, because we're not just on the Car for Ukraine website. We're also on Help 99. And if you add up our Help 99 fundraisers, it all together adds up close to 500,000. And we are actually always growing. So we're trying to get a fundraising group started in every U.S. state. So if you are in one of the states that we haven't started a group in yet, I would highly encourage them to reach out to ask how to start one. And even if there's already a group in the state that they're in, we always want to grow the teams because the thing with fundraising is that if you want to go for a long time, you have to have a community around you. It's not just like my brother and I call it like, yes, we are like the organizers, but it is not like it is just us. This would be impossible if it wasn't for teams just like yours that are doing the work every single day to pull in funds for vehicles. So it's really a team effort, and I just would encourage people to join a great team to make a big difference.
Yeah, and it helps. I did my first fundraiser for Car for Ukraine just as me, and which was great. But it's been a lot more fun to be part of the bigger group, like you mentioned. It's great, and I think I'm going to see Becca from Arizona when I'm in Kyiv in a few months. I was really hoping to see you when I was over there, but now it is this.
You're
it's gonna
coming
be
on
this.
my only time on vacation. It's like, are you kidding me?
I know. I wish I would have coordinated that better.
Yeah.
I've got some personal stuff, which is why I'm coming when I'm coming, that I needed to make fit in my schedule. But well, honestly, my hope is, and I say this to everybody in Ukraine, that I'm going to keep coming back until I get to come back and there's the big victory party. And
That would be great. Yeah.
let's hope that maybe in the fall of 26 we're all there together celebrating that victory, because that's what we're all working for. And you're working harder than most for this, and I want to give you all the credit for that. And thank you for your time. Any parting comments that you'd like to make, and I'll let you get back to having your day off.
I would say that Katerina, the first vehicle that the Michigan Battalion funded, is still going strong in our brigade. So I saw it just recently. So thank you so much for that.
Well, Steffen, thank you so much for your time. Stay safe, happy hunting, and whatever I'm supposed to say to a soldier like you. I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. The world needs to thank Ukraine for standing up for all of our freedom, and to individuals like you for helping out. So thanks again.
You're welcome. Slava Ukraini.
Thanks for watching. Link to donate to Car for Ukraine in the description. Please DM me with any questions.
You'll probably see. You'll probably see a warning that I'm recording you. So
yeah, it's fine. No, we were actually just doing a drop off of some interceptor drones before I came here. So we had a whole bunch of guys doing it, so it was a pretty fast job. And I was like, hey, I got an interview to get to. Hurry up.
they're like, Steffen's famous.
Yeah. I used to be the only foreigner here, and that changed really quick. So
Did it?
yeah. I was like, versus it's kind of like the dumb parts of the stuff here. It's like you're like, I'm the only foreigner. I'm special, and then another foreigner gets here. He's like, get off my turf. I was special before you shut up. And now there's like 20 foreign guys here.
Now you're the older foreigner.
Now I'm normal. Yeah. Shit. Just
all right.
like everybody else.
Whenever you're ready, we'll get rolling.
Okay. Ready when you are.
All right.